it's me, Aekon Star Elohai. Today I wanted to talk about advanced pendulum movements. I've been using a pendulum for about a year now, and I have found that I can't really find information online that is specific to the way that I have been using a pendulum. I use my pendulum like literally all day long. It's flying all over the place. It's constantly communicating, channeling. As a psychic medium, I find it extremely useful, not only for just speaking with the divine, but also like doing things like shopping for groceries, or shopping maybe for things for my altar, shopping for clothes that might fit a little better. Like your pendulum will truly help you upgrade yourself in many ways. I use my pendulum to do my makeup in the morning. It'll help me decide like which colors to go best together, and it's helped me like do very more complicated things with my makeup that I never even thought about doing. Like it just brings up better ideas, more guided directions. I have used my pendulum outside in terms of finding cool shit, finding cool things on the street. Maybe like, I don't know, maybe not everyone's like this, but I live in a town where a lot of people move constantly, so there's sometimes just like really nice new furniture and new stuff just on the side of the road, and my pendulum randomly will be like, yo dude, like go that way, you know, like go that way. And I'm like, okay, and I'm traveling, I'm trusting. It's really about trust. It's really about trust and building up that understanding with your pendulum that it can be this powerful, and it is extremely powerful tool if you use it correctly. That being said, it's very important to remember to cleanse and purify your pendulum, especially when I first getting started with using a pendulum. It was the first time I really started to understand that I have powers in general in terms of communicating with the divine and being able to sense and feel certain things that other people don't always seem to be aware of. But when you're doing that, sometimes you kind of attract different energies that you don't necessarily want to be communicating with. I personally am trying to mainly only communicate with my higher self unless there's a certain archangel who has made their presence like known to me, or a machine elf, something of that nature. But if not, I don't want to be communicating with just anything because I want accurate answers. So what I do is I ask my pendulum, is this coming from a place of love and light? If you are following a different path, then I would maybe consider asking, do you know who I am? And I would ask it twice even. It's good to kind of have a repetition of these questions to check in, like, do you need to cleanse? And your pendulum will tell you yes or no. We're doing great right now. Like, we're vibing. Let's go. Let's get on with the message. That being said too, I find that a lot of people teach online that you can only say yes, no, and I don't know, and that's it's not true at all. For instance, like my pendulum, I have yes, and it goes swinging this way. I have no going back and forth towards me. I have going the opposite diagonally. It's telling me to do a tarot message, or it's saying like, that whatever you're talking about in itself, like whatever you're thinking about or speaking out loud, was the message that your angels or spirit guides were trying to get over to you. I have other movements such as going in this way, kind of like a going like kind of like a helicopter almost sometimes, but it's really telling me to let go, and it gets to the point where it starts to become a transmutation, which I'll probably do a whole video on that because that's a huge way to upgrade your magic. But I use my pendulum to transmute energy. It helps me kind of understand when that energy has switched over to favor me, and then it'll clarify like it's going back into the yes direction, like whatever energy was going through is now working in my favor, so now I can move on. It'll say other things such as, it does have an I don't know. Mine sometimes will go kind of like sideways. This as well for me though, depending on how fast the movement is and how big, like right now it's really slashing, right? And for me that's usually like off with the red. It's more of like we're ending that conversation. We're ending that mindset. It's no longer serving. Stop it. It's nowhere near what the point we're trying to get at when we're communicating with you. So that's different ways of understanding. I'm trying to think of some more. Oh, which brings me to the point of my pendulum is long, baby. Long, 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 long. I find usually when I buy pendulums at metaphysical stores, they're very short. I can share an example because I like to have multiple pendulums, just because every crystal obviously has their own intention behind it and energy behind it. So it's good when you're using pendulums more often to have ones to do specific things and kind of allow them to charge at different times. But like I was saying, most of the time when you go to metaphysical shops, they give you one that's very short. But I find these useful more when I'm going outside shopping. Like I was mentioning earlier, when I go to the grocery store and I set the intention that my pendulum is going to help me find all my groceries fast, the healthiest groceries I can find, and within a certain budget. And every time I do this, I go and I check out and my money is in divine order. I know this because it's angel numbers. It's 1111. It's 12345 when I go up there. It's 2112. It's direct reflections. And your pendulum can help keep you in alignment. That's why I think it's very important as a psychic medium. If you choose to go this route, keep using your pendulum all the time. Don't let anyone make you feel like weird for having this out, because usually most people are curious. They're like, what are you doing over there? Most people also don't understand that I'm not the one moving this. I am the one in the sense that it's my higher self. But if you understand spirituality, you understand the difference between your higher self and the physical self that you're feeling right now. But your higher self should be the one that's communicating with you in this way for the most part. Oh, another good point with pendulums that I have found is in terms of where to keep them. I like to keep my pendulums in the small box, but this is very special because there is a mirror inside of it. Wow. But by doing this, I am not only charging my pendulum, but I am protecting my pendulum. It's almost like my pendulum has a pendulum in itself. It's like allowing another form of divination to live within the form of divination, because I do mirror scrying, but now my pendulum is basically mirror scrying while it's charging. So it's just super charged, y'all. Like, if you have any tips of that nature in terms of charging your crystals and pendulums more, please put them down in the comments. I would love to hear you guys' tips, especially if they're not the typical route that most people seem to talk about in like Witch Talk and YouTube here itself. I think it's really good to allow more energy to flow through, allow more experimentation in the magic community, because it can get more one-sided, but there's just so much more to explore once you understand to be fearless and understand that these are tools you have to keep working with to make them stronger and more powerful and more accurate, because there will be times where you may experience a psychic attack while you're using your pendulum because you're not cleansing and purifying and grounding yourself and checking in. But it's part of the process. Like, don't fear that happening, because it may happen, but it's not the end of the world. Like, you shouldn't throw away magic completely just because one time your pendulum told you something that was not correct. It also can be you entirely, because you are not focusing your thoughts enough so that it can give you clearer answers. Yes, once you go beyond yes, no, and I don't know, you have more flexible thoughts. You have a more flexible thought process in terms of the questions you can ask, but it is still good to keep in mind that it can't like just directly tell you because blah, 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 you know? It still can only give you one direct response in that way. With your pendulum, always know that you're going to have your own personal movements. Just because my yes goes in this diagonal formation, other people's yeses don't. That's why whenever I'm teaching others how to use magic and how to do pendulums for the first time, I just tell them to start by saying yes over and over again and allow the pendulum to move any way that it flows. And then you will see the repetition in that movement. And then I can change my thoughts and go no, 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 and it'll show me no over and over again. Okay, I wanted to show you guys how to use your pendulum to help you while you're using tarot and oracle cards as well. I find it to be an easier way to clarify that I'm picking the right cards at times, especially when I'm working with others. So yeah, I just shuffle this deck. I usually start off by splitting it in half, and then I'll see, does it want to use this one or this one? And it will circle around for me to point to the one we're doing. So I'm going to take this part off because that's not what I'm working with. And again, I'm going to split this one more time just to make this a little bit easier. Again, going to go over the top of them. It's saying no on this side and saying yes to this side. Okay? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to spread out my tarot cards like so. I'm going to move them up a little bit so you guys can see better. But yeah, now the same concept. I'm just going to take my pendulum over the cards, and then once it starts to circle around, I'm going to pick up the cards that are in that direction and then ask it, is it this card? No. Is it this card? It says yes. See, might have a bonus one here. Ooh, secrets. But yeah, your pendulum can help you find out new things about the divine, find out new things about magic, if you are willing to communicate in new ways and you are open to communicating in this way, because it does take practice. It does take a lot of awareness of your thoughts, because it's directly communicating with what you're thinking, what you're feeling. So keep that in mind, my friends. But it's definitely one of my favorite things to use. Definitely one of my favorite magic practices.